Meeting of the Valley Center City Council for April 20th, 2021 is now in session. Roll call.
Mayor Cicerillo,
Here.
Councilmember Stam,
Here.
Councilmember Evans,
Here.
Councilmember Davis,
Here.
Councilmember Anderson,
Here.
Councilmember Gregory, here, Councilmember Kerstetter,
Here.
Councilmember Wilson,
Here.
Councilmember Colbert.
Here. Please rise and join me for the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's pray. Father God, we come today and we thank you for a beautiful evening. Lord, we thank you for the public servants that are in this room and serve this community. Father, those behind the desk, those behind me, Lord, those that are working tirelessly for the efforts of Valley Center. Lord, we pray that you would just give wisdom in this room tonight, decisions that need to be made and things that need to be done. Father, we pray that you would be glorified here. God, we thank you for freedom that we have. We thank you for government, and we thank you for those that are sitting here tonight. Father, we thank you for your love. We thank you most of all for Jesus. In his name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we'll move on to item 5, approval of the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. Thank you. All right. Item 6, administration agenda 6A, City Council meeting minutes from April 6, 2021.
Move to approve the minutes of the April 6, 2021 regular council meeting as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. Thank you. All right, item 7, presentations and proclamations. We have some good things tonight in this. We will start out with the Arbor Day proclamation, and then it will be followed with a plaque presentation. So let me go ahead and read the proclamation, and then I will let Roger Stewart stand up, and he has a couple words to say, as I'm told. So, whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for planting of trees, and whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. Now, therefore, I, Lou Cicerello, Mayor of Valley Center, Kansas, do hereby proclaim April 30th, 2021 as Arbor Day in the city of Valley Center. And I urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. And further, I urge all citizens to plant trees and promote the well-being of this and future generations. Roger, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, City Council members, I am honored to come here before you to present a special plaque for 20 years being a Tree City in the program, having Valley Center be a Tree City for 20 years. You may ask, well, what constitutes being a Tree City? Well, there are 4 basic standards. First one is having a tree board, and now the tree board's underneath the Outdoor Spaces Board. Having a tree care ordinance And we have a tree care ordinance known as the Urban Forest Management Plan. Having a community forestry budget of at least $2 per capita. And we do have that, and that's through the Parks Department. And then lastly, an Arbor Day observation and proclamation. Well, we had the proclamation, but due to COVID, we haven't really had an observation where we go and actually have a plant trees somewhere. I hope to do that sometime here in this fall. Everything's going to open up in the fall, right? Anyway, while I have you here, I just wanted to let you know that the Outdoor Spaces Board is currently updating several of the tree documents that need updating. First and foremost is the Trees of Valley Center pamphlet that we did back, 15 years ago. Well, it needs updating. And then secondly, the Urban Forest Management Program, we need to update that. And then lastly is the Tree Incentive Program, which allows the city to help people plant trees in the right place, or the right tree, right place. So hopefully in the fall, we'll have all these updated and presented to you. And I hope to have new pamphlets everywhere in the city so people can pick out the right tree for the right place. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact us, the Outdoor Spaces Board, or Mr. Owens, because we want to get the right trees in the right place. So thank you very much for your time, and I now will present.
Ask her.
Back on?
Yeah, right there. I'm going to give you an official copy of the proclamation.
Well, we'll put it in our record.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All righty, I don't get to stay here very long. We're going to move on to item B, announcement of recognition of police department promotions. Chief Newman.
Mayor and council, it's my privilege to come to you tonight with some good things, some promotions within our department. It's not often in departments our size that promotions become available, and officers often have to wait a long time for that. They're patient, and they put in a lot of hard work and dedication, and so we always try to promote from within. So it's my privilege to get to do that tonight. I'll start off with Sierra Metzger, if she could come up first. Made notes just in case. Sierra has a criminal justice degree, and she has a degree in criminal justice and a minor in psychology. She actually came to us in 2015 as an intern, a college intern. We recognized her hard work from that internship and hired her in 2016. She worked on the streets for a couple of years. In 2018, most of you, I'm sure, are aware, she went to the schools and became a school resource officer. What a lot of you probably don't know is maybe her entire career, but I know at least the last several years, her goal is been to become an investigator. She's worked hard at that. She's attended a lot of trainings for investigations, and she's also assisted investigations with affidavits and investigating cases the last 2 summers when school was out of session. So it's my privilege to promote her to the rank of detective tonight.
I do want to say, there's one thing I wanted to say. I had to sign these to make them official. And I already told her this, but it was very difficult to put my name on hers because of how much the kids in the schools love her. But it's so well deserving for her. And, you know, I can't thank her enough for actually being in Valley and doing it here. So, all right, you want to put her in the middle or? And run.
I can't say that I blame him.
Add an honor.
Gimping up here. Well done. That position is now, or that position was vacated by the next one, promotion to sergeant. Glenn Davidson also has his degree in criminal justice with a minor in psychology. He got his original start. He grew up in Valley Center, and he got his original start with the department in May of 2000. In 2006, Hayesville stole him from us. He went down there, worked in patrol, worked as a field training officer, a school resource officer, and then finally in investigations. And so in 2018, we were in dire need of a detective, and we ended up stealing him back from Hayesville. So he's got about 18 years now in law. Well, more than that. I guess he's got like 21, close to 21 years in law enforcement now. So it's my privilege to promote him to sergeant tonight. In this case, I think he was going to have a couple of people come up and help pin his badge on him. I'll invite them to do that now.
I'll give you $5 if you draw blood.
Congratulations to both of them.
I have to admit, that's probably one of the best parts of being mayor is, is being involved in these kind of things. So we'll let the ones that are walking out, give them a second here. And I'll take my mask off now that I'm back in here. Yes, thank you. All right, we are going to move on to item 8, public forum. At this time, is the time that we allow anyone who would like to speak that is to an item that's not on the agenda. We do have a person tonight, Tom Steinkircher. You may come up, just state your name and address and the reason, I know why, but for the record, the reason why you're here.
Yes, name's Tom Steinkircher, and I live at 1050 West 77th, which also Ford. And was that all the information you needed?
Yep, that's it. Yep.
And then the item that I wanted to address is I know there's going to be some changes to Ford Street there. And going to include widening at some. We built that new house there at 1050, and our builder put a nice approach on it, concrete approach. I'm just concerned, when they do that work, will they put it back the way, or as close as they can to the way it is now?
There's who I was looking for. Mr. Goka, our engineer, did you hear his question?
Yes, we're going to drive this.
Right, and it's in my past opinion that if we damage anything that's existing, we put it back the way it was prior, correct?
Yes, they will all be replaced in kind, and that's good or better condition than same surface material, so it's concrete.
Okay.
Asphalt, concrete.
I'm assuming in widening, they will get into where our driveway is.
I don't have the plan.
Okay.
But yeah, and it may not.
It will be put back better.
Yes, it will be put back the way it was. Yes, a very good question. You do very good concern. So I appreciate you coming and asking.
Thank you.
Better now than later, right?
Right.
So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All righty, we do have one appointment, or we're moving on to item 9, appointments. We do have an appointment to the zoning board. I believe this was the last of the 3.
Yes, Mayor.
Right, because we did 2 the last meeting.
Yep,
This is
we
the
did
last
2,
one.
and now this makes it a full commission once again.
Great. So council, at this time, I would like to appoint Paul Spranger to a 3-year appointment on the Planning and Zoning Board.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and is there any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. Thank you, council. We have no committees and commissions. We'll move on to old business. Item A, amended budget calendar. Mr. Smith.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Come to you tonight with our amended budget calendar once again. Still working. So as you know, Senate Bill 13 was signed into law back in mid-March, March 16th. And it basically changes the way the city has to budget moving forward. It did repeal the tax lid, so we no longer have to do any of those calculations up front, deal with CPI index percentages, exemptions, public safety exemptions, debt exemptions, all those things. It reverts it back to now setting a new revenue neutral rate and then building upon that moving forward. So the alterations we made here, everything was pretty standard up until around June 15th to the July 6th timeframe. So June 1st, we'll still be doing our department head budget presentations. June 15th, we'll be getting our valuation notice from Sedgwick County. That will also include our new revenue neutral rate. And that revenue neutral rate is basically the taxes we levied the year prior divided by our new assessed valuation. But lowers the mill levy a little bit. July 6th, we'll have our comprehensive budget discussion. And during this time frame, there's these special budget meetings are entered in there if we need them. We're kind of on a time crunch because we won't know our valuation until June 15th. And then we have to let Sedgwick County know by July 15th our intent to exceed, if we're going to exceed it, and by exactly how much. So internally, we'll have the budget ready to go June 15th when we do that budget draft. We'll get as much information as we can. If we do get our evaluation notice early, we'll be able to have a much more in-depth discussion on the 15th, but we may need to add an extra meeting in there just in case. So that's why those green items are there. July 20th, we'll do a CIP review discussion, and then August 5th. This will be our new publishing date with our, if we do decide to exceed the revenue neutral rate, we have to publish our intent in a local circulating newspaper as well as on our city website. So we'll publish that, and then we'll have a additional public hearing on August 17th. So we'll have a public hearing regarding the revenue neutral rate. Close that, we'll open up the regular public hearing for the overall budget, and then hopefully approve the budget that night. So we'll explain more in detail as we move along. They're just now getting out the budget books for all the cities. I think they were just released yesterday, and we're still waiting on a few more, or a little bit more information from the state to move forward there. So we'll kind of do it step by step and get through it. Have any questions right now, or?
Questions, council? And is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve amended 2022 budget calendar.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. Thank you. Item B, for ordinance 1354-21, rezone land along Fifth Street, second reading.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Happy Tuesday.
Hi there.
Before you is the second reading regarding the rezoning of the property located on Fifth Street as presented last time. Any questions?
Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve ordinance 1354-21, rezoning of land located immediately to the east of the property address 3059 East Fifth Street, Valley Center, Kansas, from A1 to C2 for second reading.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-1. Thank you. All right, moving on to new business. Item A, waiver of subdivision regulations, Dill Hill subdivision.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. Tonight's a really exciting evening for you during this city council meeting. We not only have one, but two waiver requests for two brand new subdivisions that are being proposed here in Valley Center. As you have seen from our previous strategic plan, as well as our community survey that was done in 2019, these are one of the areas that were identified as really needing to focus efforts and initiatives from the city side, for the mayor, council, and city staff of making more diversity when it comes to our housing stock in Valley Center. Before you here, the first of two, this one is the Dill Hill Estates. This will be a beautiful subdivision that I will go ahead and let of course, the folks here tonight present to you and go through the preliminary information as well as the three waiver requests, and they can kind of paint the picture for you on what type of subdivision that they want to bring here to our community in Valley Center. So I will turn it over to Chris Bohm with Garver, and then he will introduce everyone else. So then I'll come back up and kind of recap and answer any questions after they're done with their presentation. So thank you. Yep, it's up there. Okay, very cool. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Chris Baum from Garver Engineering in Wichita. We're at 8535 East 21st Street North, 67206. And I'm here tonight with the development group for Dill Hill Estates. And the group here, and they can explain a little bit more in a minute of what they're thinking about for the city of Valley Center, but they found a very unique piece of ground with a lot of topography, a very beautiful site. And they have experience in developing larger acre estate lots. And this site is particularly suited for that with its terrain, just its natural features. So a few things though, as we look at it, it's immediately south of Fiddler's Creek Estates, and it's on the east side of Seneca. So it Yeah, there we go. There's a copy of the preliminary plat. So there's an entryway into the subdivision off Seneca, and it winds its way back and then down south, dead ending in two cul-de-sacs near the south end. You may know on 85th Street or Ford Street, the West Star station there. Okay, so that's one little notch out of the kind of the southeasterly corner of the plat. And if you can see it on your screens there, you can see that exception. Thank you, in the southeast corner for the Evergy substation. And if you take a look at that map real quick, you'll see in each of those lines is 1 foot of contour elevation difference. So there's really, it's very cool. It has a couple of ponds on it. And what they've done is crafted these two and larger acre lots to fit on that site, looking for a variety of housing product for the city of Valley Center. So the idea is it's an estate concept, and I'll get into the waivers because I'm going to talk you right through it. The roadways are rural in setting, so they're an asphalt mat road with rock shoulders, and then big, wide, open ditches, not just quick ditches, big and wide and open. And we need to generate a little bit of dirt to do what we're going to do, and that's how we're going to do it. And that makes it much more easily maintained by the homeowners to put grass, or if they want wildflowers or whatever in those areas, to create this neighborhood feel. Driveways into the different homes will have head walls on either side of the culvert pipe, so they look really nice. It's not just a tin whistle, as some people say, at the end of the drives. So we've created this open space, these larger drives, these locations where homes can be further back in and among the features of the lot. So the first request for a variance is to allow the use of an asphalt mat street with rock shoulders and the open ditch concept to drain it. That is, your current standards call for curb and gutter with storm sewer. And that does two things. It's very expensive to do that on this larger acre lot configuration. And number two, it takes away from the character of the neighborhood, what they're trying to accomplish here. You can see a few photos. This is from Lakewood Hills up in Park City that the development group has done. And you can see that. You can see upper left is one of the head walls of the driveway where they are using some natural plantings there, and then have a little brick head wall through which the culvert passes under the drive. To the right, another home with their drive and what it looks like, the kind of the type of lot that they're going for in that area with a mailbox, monument mailbox to the side. Down to the bottom, you can see a couple of shots of what it looks like with those roadway ditches adjacent to the asphalt mat roads. Ours would vary a little bit. The pavement would be a bit thicker, and we'd have a rock shoulder on the edge. And then the last shot with the clouds up top is just kind of a shot down the line. And that's exactly the kind of concept that they're going for here. With this kind of neighborhood, and if you read the letter, a lot of people like to use golf carts or bicycles to drive around the neighborhood. They're really spread out, so it takes a minute to get to the next home. And it's really not conducive, nor do they really want a sidewalk system in here. So that's item number 2, a variance request, that not having a sidewalk within the subdivision. And number 3, and we've been working with the city on this, and we will continue to work with the city on it, for sanitary sewer for the site. There is a way to get a gravity sanitary sewer to serve this area, but it's going to be very expensive. And secondly, it's going to serve, or it could serve, adjacent areas, but as it stands, there's no way to account for that cost or have people in the future help pay for that part of the sewer system. There's just not a policy in place to do that. So as it's going to be considered, but at the same time, they'd like the ability to use an ATU, advanced treatment unit. It's an on-site sanitary sewer system that's one lot, one system, and it uses an aeration chamber and then a pressure pump pit and an underground drip irrigation field to dispose of their sewage on site. They use those in the development you just saw the photos of, Lakewood Hills. And I know the city of Valley Center has a policy where they can be used. And I know also Sedgwick County, if you're interested, has a program where they permit those and annually require a maintenance program on them. So those are the 3 asks for tonight. Again, on the preliminary plat, you can see it's definitely an estate type feel, and that's the kind of openness, that photo there, that's the sales map from Lakewood Hills. And you can see how that road meanders down. You can see the similarities, I think, between that piece of property and this one. So with that, I'll have Gail and Nat come up. Would you like to elaborate on anything that I mentioned tonight? On up.
Hello, everyone. I'm Galen Net, Net Development. We will be developing this project. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. And Chris did a real good job telling you about our other project, Lakewood Hills. That development is about, well, it's where Alice Harley Davidson is, 53rd Street and Hydraulic. And we have sold that project out. And so for a few years now, we've been looking for another piece of property that would work just as well. And we have found it here. So we're pretty excited about this. It's the price range that we're going for is an average of probably right around 775,000. That's kind of where we've been, price point. So in Lakewood Hills, we had homes from 500,000, and the most expensive one's getting ready to be built at 2 million. So it's the paving is something that we need for this type of a project. There's a lot of projects around that feature acreage tracks, but they have dirt roads. And the buyers in Lakewood Hills were really impressed with having a dust-free environment, a way to drive their cars in and out. And like Chris said, they really enjoy the golf carts and the community feel. So the development was real successful. I think it'll be just as successful here. And we're excited about this. So we'd like to repeat it here. If there's any questions for me or Chris.
We do have Councilmember Colbert has a question.
Yeah, is this going to be a closed community gated type deal?
A gated community?
Yes.
No, we are not planning on gating it. We actually did gate Lakewood Hills Estates, and hindsight was we wish we would have allowed everyone to put their own gates in and leave the community open. So, and this way, whoever wants a gate, they can put it in their own private gate on their estate. So,
The other question I had was, if I'm looking at this map right, is there going to be an entrance on Seneca into that area?
No, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, on Seneca, I'm sorry. Yes.
There is?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's going to be the main entrance.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Stan?
I think this is a good project. I've been through the one over on 53rd Street, and it's very well done. I like the fact that the houses are sometimes hidden by the trees. They curve, they cut out what they want for their house, and then the trees are a natural fence. We're also doing one like this in Derby, and people are into the rural setting. They want the city amenities road, but they don't want, like you said, the dirt. And those lots are selling pretty good in Derby. There's only two things I'd like to see done is make sure the culverts are sized going downstream. So they're the proper size. And then also the HOA maintain the ditches and culverts, not the city. That's the only two things I have concern about.
Okay. We actually have, we typically have the homeowners, and of course it'd be monitored by the HOA, but we also have the piping sized by the engineers.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and we and there are quite a few trees on this property as well, and we're going to salvage the trees where the roads are going to go in and replant those on the lots. So it'll be a treed community as well.
Yeah, I flew over about a week ago with a friend, and
Did you? Mm-hmm.
neat area.
Thank you.
Councilmember Kerstetter?
I think Mr. Anderson was first.
No?
All right, fair enough. Well, actually, my questions were answered already, and I appreciate the single-family homes coming in, and then our next development too. I like seeing that single-family homes. I think that's what we need here is more single-family homes coming in. So, thank you.
Councilmember Anderson?
I was just going to echo what Councilmember Stan was saying. I'm also familiar with that, with the other subdivision, Lakewood Hills. I know a couple of families that live in there, and it's surprisingly secluded, and I understand what you're trying to achieve. And I think the difference between these two properties is this has got more topography, as you were saying. The other one is more treed. But I think that that's part of what, and Mr. Clark was saying earlier, we're missing price points in our market around here. And I think this is definitely going to fill in a lot of the cracks on the upper end. And I think I just echo the same concerns that Matt had. But you guys obviously have pretty well thought out. This isn't your first one, so there's not a lot of worry with that. And I know our city staff has vetted a lot of the, or all of the concerns, and that's ongoing with any project. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Would you like a recap, or would you like me to call for a motion? All right, is there a motion?
Motion to approve the request for waiver of subdivision regulations for Dill Hill subdivision.
Second.
A motion and a second. Just a moment. I believe we have someone that wants to speak on this.
Yes, I wasn't sure if you wanted to have that during the discussion part after the motion is made, so it's up to you now.
Well, no, I want to hear it before we make the motion. So we're at the spot right now that we may hear from them.
Perfect.
So if you want to go ahead and step up, come on up and state your name and whoever wants to speak. Yep. I recognize you.
I'd be back. Garrett Withar, 8110 North Seneca Street. I have that property to the south of this development. My concern is the same as last time. Just any new development doesn't change the floodplain so that me and my neighbors have a new problem with more flooding based on the development. And in particular, I see the.
Can you bring the plat back up, Mr. Smith? I'm assuming that's what you wanted to see.
Yeah.
Okay.
My property is where the text is, but I guess the 5 plotted houses there along Fiddler's Creek, if those are changed to be out of floodplain so someone can build a home there, I just am concerned that the water will go someplace else. And it's
this is on the planning and zoning
Okay.
for next Tuesday. Those notices were sent out to all the property owners. That's for the preliminary plat, as well as rezoning that has to take place on the larger section.
Okay.
From A1 to R.
Okay. Great. Yes, and we'll make sure that your concerns will be kept. So.
that's all I have. Thank
All
you.
right. Was that? I'm assuming you were speaking for the whole group, or does somebody else wanted to speak? I mean, it was all. I'm assuming it's the same reason you're here, but please, you feel free. I don't have any problem with anybody else that wants to come up and speak. Since I did recognize the whole crew.
I'm Sherry Taylor, and our property is just south of Garrett's along Ford. My concern is if they do not have storm and we're not taking care of water, how are you going to control that? It's going to run downhill. So that puts it off onto Garrett and then off on us. So, last week you Brett assured us, that you had our interest, at the forethought, you were going to make sure that, taking care of water. And so now we're just waiving the stormwater. So that, makes you a little nervous when you're downhill from all of that. So that was my concern. I know when Fiddler's Creek went in, I remember the council meeting, they asked for a waiver for the same thing. They wanted not curb and gutter, they wanted ditches and all that. And at the time, the council had said, no, we already have a subdivision that's the last subdivision before you get to the high school on off of Meridian. That did not have storm, and I do believe does not have storm drains. And I know they have a lot of water issues. And at the time, Fiddler's Creek did not get that waiver. They had to put in curb and gutter and storm. So Nada? Thank you.
Okay, do we have someone else that wanted to speak? Okay, go ahead, Mr. Golka, and then Councilmember Anderson has a question. But I'll let you speak.
Can I lead into you? Because I think you can stay up there if you like, but I think the concern with the housing and obviously it's all uphill from you guys. And this kind of was a question I had for you guys or the developers. Those lots, the road is going to be south of the houses on that where the entry is. Your floodway is north of there. So those lots should drain back to the north. And the only thing I want to comment about the difference between the development you're talking about north of town, which is Windmill Valley, it was built in a flat field, and this is far from a flat field. And I know, and I totally agree with not ever making that mistake again, because we will never be able to fix that. But I think that's why we're questioning them, and it's good to question every point in this process and to hold them accountable for that, so we don't have those issues. But that was what I was observing on there, and I wanted to clarify with Mr. Golka was that the way that those lots are, they're going to drain back to the north, which is going to get caught in that flood storm retention or storm drain floodway that's going to then drain to the west and be part of the project that we're doing with the TIF, correct?
Yes, the
That's
existing.
a lot of information.
I know, I can see the wheels turning as you're processing it
The
all.
preliminary plat does show it, but there would be floodway reserve, and there's an intent to utilize that existing floodway. There's a lot of study and different levels of approval that still have to come on that, but I do want to just very briefly clarify the exemption that was provided. So we've exempted storm sewer piping itself. We have not exempted drainage requirements. So there's a engineering design side of things that is not being waived through this, specifically stormwater detention and management. So throughout the platting process from preliminary through final, which eventually ends up, for your approval, we'll be very closely analyzing and considering all of the impacts caused by this development with regard to stormwater runoff. You're going to develop the sites, you're going to increase the amount of runoff that's coming from them. How do we manage? How do we mitigate? How do we not negatively impact the properties around us? That is not being waived with this variance that's currently before you. And then to speak to the history, yeah, Councilmember Anderson's exactly right. Valley Center is topographically challenged. And when we adopted the standard for curb and gutter and storm sewer, it was to prevent, some of the earlier, 80s, 70s developments that utilized open ditches and culverts and really didn't have the slope to accommodate those type of facilities. The only other concern really is the pavement section, which was addressed by Mr. Bohm and having, a reinforced gravel edge using the city's standard pavement section just without a curb and gutter to confine it. So everything before you this evening has been vetted by staff and we're comfortable with it.
And Councilmember Colbert can definitely explain how bad that area that in Windmill was because of the poor design initially. So he's well aware of that situation. So
Yeah, and I've been trying to get that improved ever since. But
that is his project, So, all right. Was there any other questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor, raise your hands. Motion carries. Thank you.
Mayor, if I could real quick. Sorry, quick plug. Do want to really thank Mr. Jeff Pritchard, Galen and Ryan Nett for their belief in Valley Center and for investing their dollars in our community. This project alone is estimated to increase our valuation of an additional $19.5 million once this is fully built out. So this is a great addition to our community. I just want to publicly thank them for having confidence in us to get this done for them as well. So thank you.
All right, item B, waiver of subdivision regulations for Hidden Valley subdivision. I am not getting this to come up.
All right, good evening again, Mayor and Council. I got to do that every time. All right, so this one before you is a waiver of subdivision regulations, very similar to the one you just approved. This one is going to be for Hidden Valley Subdivision. This is right adjacent, right to the east of where Dill Hill Estates is platted to be. This one is another subdivision at a different price point. And so this is fantastic in addition to, of course, Iron Horse and the Prairie Lakes when it comes to TIF being in one type of price range, Dill Hill being in another. And then this one here in Hidden Valley will be right in the middle of those ones, which will be a great addition to the community. Again, is from one of our local residents and local contractors, Mr. Art Marquez, who is also with us this evening to present. But first, I will turn it over to Mr. Jeff Ray with JEO to kind of give you an overview similar to the last one and come back for any questions.
Thank you, Brent. I wish I got that at every city council meeting. As Brent said, my name is Jeff Ray. I'm a planner with JEO Consulting Group. I am technically out of our Omaha office, but as we operate out of Iowa, Nebraska, and Kansas, we have 3 Kansas offices in Topeka, Lawrence, and locally here in Wichita at 727 Waco Avenue. So it's a pleasure to be here and to show you what our concept and our vision is. We are similar concepts and questions and requesting waivers very similar to what Dill Hill just requested, but we, as Brent said, we are at a different price point. We are looking at half-acre lots to try to make a rural, spacious environment and neighborhood. Advance that there. Okay, there we go. And this is the preliminary concept. We're about a step behind where Dill Hill is. We haven't gone to the full engineering or surveying level yet, but that should be coming here shortly later this spring and into the summer, and I'm sure we'll be back before you for those additional approvals. We too, we're looking at this rolling topography. We're not quite as steep as our neighbors directly to the west of us. We have a little bit flatter ground area, and this is actually a redevelopment. So there's an existing equestrian facility that's been zoned and operated there. So we'll come back in. We want to protect the natural swale that's in there already for the drainage purposes and for the riparian corridor, and keep that going. So this is showing the vision as it currently is. There are multiple owners on this property. And as Brent mentioned, Art Marquez is here, who will be the home builder, actually lives on the property. The large red square you see at the top of the map, which is actually to the west, is his home. He will continue to live there and be a neighbor to this development as it moves forward. Go ahead. Thank you. All right. So as I mentioned here, we're trying to create an affordable rural housing setting. And as similar to what Dill Hill mentioned, people are in favor of the paved streets. They like that feel. They like the spaciousness. They like your school district. So I think there's a great opportunity here. We want to maintain the natural topography as much as possible and natural drainage ways, which we actually have breaking 2 different directions. We have a little bit to the north as well as the majority of it coming to the south. So we want to continue to utilize public water here, but yet we do want to utilize an alternative sanitary sewer system due to the cost. We can get into that in a little bit more detail. We haven't fully vetted all of the potential opportunities, but the concept that's shown before you, we already know will have to be redesigned. We have a newer entrance location off of Ford Street, almost directly across from the western entrance from 81 Speedway. So we know that we will need another entrance there likely and not come in off of that Craig Street. That's really probably not going to work out very well for us. Probably isn't the best entrance to a brand new subdivision to bring it through some of the older neighborhood there. So we'll do that. The western and southern portion of the site will likely be a later phase. It's under a different property ownership. And right now that's in question. So we have to work on that. We'll probably also make a connection to the northwest, not to the Dill Hill property, maybe over a portion of that. We have to work out some of those, but to the property to the north of Dill Hill. with a road and potentially pedestrian access. So we're still trying to work some of those out. As I said, they're very fluid still at this point in the design. The vision here for the homes go ahead, is here's some of the homes that Art is currently building in the region and what its vision here. These are 12 to 15,000 square foot homes with an optional basement below them. Go ahead. With that price target right around that 300 range, some will be a little higher up into maybe 4, some will maybe slip down into the 2s depending on some of the amenities that are associated with it in the particular floor plan that the client chooses. So that's really what we're targeting and how we want to go ahead. And there's one more. All right. So you can see, go back one sec. Thanks. You know, on the wider lots, these are half-acre lots. They're not huge, but yet they're wide enough that you can spread out a little bit. You could have side entry garages and not necessarily always have the garages facing the front street, so it creates a better aesthetic in the neighborhood. We too, go ahead, are requesting that the 3 waivers are very similar to, they're exactly the same actually as Dill Hill. We want to use paved road with rock shoulders. And then low ditches for our storm drain purposes and their detention. And you see we've already identified where the lower spots as to where those detentions will go to help protect everybody from downstream, help the water quality as well as the quantity. We want to be very cognizant of everything that's downstream from us. Also want to ask for the waiver for the sidewalks. Is the issue with the ditches that doesn't work very well. They just have a little sidewalk and we don't really have anything to connect to. There's no sidewalks south or west or east or north of us. So at this point, we want to be more of a self-contained community. And as I mentioned earlier, we're still exploring the opportunity to have an internal trail and walking path as an amenity for the residents that could potentially be tied back into something on Ford Street if something would happen in the future, as well as to the northwest that could maybe happen. There's a gap there, but if it could potentially tie back in over to Seneca and the rest of your trail system would be really great and part of the overall vision for how this whole area of the community could ultimately develop. So those are our 3 waiver requests. Again, they're very identical to our neighbors to the west, and we're just offering a different price point, a little bit smaller lot, and it would continue to be those ditches and the storm system would be continued to maintain by the homeowners, and the homeowners association would be responsible for that, particularly the ditch and cell areas. That's it. That, yeah, I'll take whatever questions you have, and I think Art will speak. Well,
Barry, can you go back to the agenda and pull up whatever page this is with page 34? That's the one. So looking at this, if I've got this right, Dill Hill will be that area. Yes, it's being circled plus up into there, right? If I got that right. Okay. So, and then you're next to it. Is that, go back to the Hidden Valley subdivision, right where that road is? Is that the existing road that's off of Ford Street that leads up?
that's the existing driveway to Art's house right now.
Yeah, to your house, right? Okay. I'm just, you know, when it's a bunch of land, and I'm a visual guy, I need to make sure I know where I'm at. So
yeah, there's, and you know, those tree lines have, or those fence lines have nice trees in them, and we want to protect those trees and continue to allow those to go. And that's kind of where we came with the name of Hidden Valley, where it was just kind of tucked back in behind. There's a farmstead out front on Ford, and we're back in behind that, and want to create that nice neighborhood there.
Councilmember Anderson.
I had a question for Mr. Golka. As far as the sizing of these lots is about 5 times smaller than the first one. Is there any size issue with the sewer system that they're proposing? As far as the leaching beds or anything like that, I don't know. I assume that's what we're talking about as a for the sewer systems. Is there a size issue with the size of the lots?
I am not aware of any.
Okay.
Sedgwick County is really the authority having jurisdiction over alternative sewer systems. But for a half acre lot, I wouldn't anticipate any, but I would need some time to fully vet that before I said it with confidence.
Okay.
Councilmember Kerstetter.
All right, Mr. Anderson asked this exact question I have is just the sanitary, the sewer system is my concern with the smaller lot. But I'm going to reiterate what I said earlier with the Dill Hill subdivision. I like seeing the single family subdivision coming in. I just have the concern of the sewer system, and then you're addressing the issues with the drainage. So that's my only concerns.
And my comment, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but these aren't your old traditional septic systems. They're the whole, I've seen a relative of mine had to have hers replaced in Oklahoma, and it's not what it's like. You actually have this thing and it comes out of the ground, or kind of not comes out of the ground, but there's a big pump and all.
Technology has changed a lot with the active systems that they have now and the alternative systems. So I have the Kansas Department of Health minimum standards for design and construction for on-site wastewater systems here. I believe this is still a current reg, even though it's dated back to '97. So some of those setbacks, are pretty small. I mean, the recommended setback, just even from a water line, is only 25 feet. I'm giving the recommended, which is greater even than the required, which they also give. We would follow the recommended. Potable water lines is 25 feet. Property lines is 50 feet. So these lots are 100 feet wide, and typically 100 feet wide and 200 feet deep. That's typically how they've been designed, and we'll probably stick very similar to that. From any other private well or anything, because there are residents directly south of us, so we looked at that to make sure we would be far enough away from them and not affect them in any ill way. That's recommended at 100 feet, but it's only required to be 50 feet. And just the right of way itself of Ford is greater than that, so we will definitely be far enough away from a setback perspective.
Councilmember Stam.
I've done a lot of reading on these systems. When I found out the one over in 53rd had this system in it, I like going reading and investigating stuff. And what I found was all good. And it seems like, if I'm not correct, they're sized by the square foot of the house.
I'm a planner. I'll let the engineer answer that, but it's my understanding that it's based usually off of like number of toilets and your fixtures, because then that how much you're actually going to be dispensing out that pipe. But I'll let.
I actually have a big book that I printed off back on my desk at work, and I was in a hurry and forgot it. But I have no concerns about the systems they're proposing.
Council, any other questions? Councilmember Colbert.
I hate to be a nitpicky, but this reminds me of where I live up on Southwind. No sidewalks, but yet you have a drainage ditch going through the area, correct?
That's correct. There'll be a drainage out front of the.
And 5 years from now, say that drainage ditch gets blocked up like mine is, you're going to have water in that yard.
We have a little bit of topography here to deal with, and that'll allow it. We have some gently rolling hills, and it's the homeowners association's responsibility then there will be to maintain that and make sure that that's clear so they won't clog up. If we end up with a freezing situation, sometimes when we have that, if we have a heavy snow or something, those situations could potentially happen. But the home should be high enough, and the water would be designed to have an overflow and route around without getting back to the home.
I don't know. I don't feel comfortable with that because we have no sidewalks in that north wind, south wind area up there. And that's one of the biggest complaints we get from citizens all the time. Anytime it rains, I don't care if it's just a drizzle. We wind up having water in those ditches. And they get stagnant. Next thing you know, you got mice in there and everything else. I just can't, that's my opinion. I'll let it go at that.
Councilmember Colbert, I totally get where you're coming from. I think the biggest difference now is back when that neighborhood was designed, none of the thought patterns that are going through now were even taken consideration. And one of the time, before you were on the council, I went over and looked at that, and there was the one house down the street from you where the ditch was dug out to see where they were made. The one culvert was here. The other culvert was here. The water's supposed to flow this way. So it wasn't just the open ditch. The more I had looked into it prior to his time on the council, the more it turned out it was just a very poorly designed, poorly laid out. But that was the kicker. I suspected all of that until I saw that one house where they're offset by that much. So, Councilmember Anderson.
I can appreciate Councilmember Colbert's concern on this, especially with the amount of headache that we've had. I do want to point out that these lot sizes are considerably different. On paper, it looks like you're looking at the same type of subdivision, but it's a half acre compared to, I don't know what those lots are over in Windmill Valley. I used to live there, and I can guarantee you it's not half acre. I do have a question for either Mr. Clark or Mr. Golka. The road width on this proposed development, do we have details on what they are, or we have compared to what our like his concern was with being able to walk on the streets and things. I know that like some of our other newer subdivisions are wider streets and they can't accommodate foot traffic much better.
So for starters, the right-of-way width dedication will be the same, and that's to accommodate utilities. With alternative sewer systems in the rear lot, our potable water systems, which are not being waived, will be in the front lot, thus getting that spacing for KDHE. There's other utilities that will also want to utilize that right-of-way, such as Evergy, Kansas Gas, your telecom companies. So the roadway width, would follow a standard section necessary to accommodate turning movements for public safety vehicles. It would be very similar to what you see in subdivisions now. You just wouldn't have the extra 2.5 feet of curb.
Thank you.
Councilmember Kerstetter.
This is going to planning and zoning after we are done with this waiver, correct?
So they have not submitted a preliminary plat yet, but yes, that would have to go through the Planning and Zoning Commission,
making sure,
and especially with the PUD that's currently over this property, that has to be rezoned and removed as well.
Okay.
And so, there's quite a few more hurdles. They're a little bit behind of what Dill Hill would be. So Dill Hill has the preliminary plat ready, and they're working through those details right now with Hidden Valley.
Okay, most of these, I'm saying this to make sure that we're addressing all the issues we brought up in the next phase of planning. That's what I wanted to see.
And the great thing is, the staff review, we go back and forth constantly, with PEC, with our own city staff, with public safety, and everybody. And we do a tremendous job with vetting all these issues. And that's why I want to reiterate too, that these ones, Councilman Colbert, are different than previously what's been done in the north, where the HOA and the homeowners associations are going to be responsible to maintain these ditches, the culverts. The city's responsibility will end at the road, and that will be in the HOA. That will be on every deed that is filed. When you close on a property, you get a copy of those regulations, just like you do normally if you're in an HOA. And so those things will protect the city from some of the issues that had happened to the north. And just like that was mentioned before, these lots are a lot larger. Some of those ones on the north side are 60-foot. Wide, frontage, with 100 maybe foot on some maybe depth. So a lot different shape and size of lot going into both these different subdivisions.
Councilmember Davis.
Yeah, you said the HOA is responsible for the ditches and everything. what is our, um, what does the city have that we could do if the HOA doesn't take care of it? You know,
That's a
if
civil
they're
matter.
supposed to take
Yep.
care of it.
Yep, that's a civil matter between that property owner and the HOA.
Yeah.
And so there's similar issue going on actually right now that you may not even be aware of with Fiddler's Creek HOA and the developer to the east there with some drainage issues. So, you know, those things happen and they take care of that themselves. That's a legal issue between the HOA and those adjacent property owners and that new property owner there to the east. So that's what would happen similar to this situation. And Mr. Arbuckle can correct me if I'm wrong on that. He's shaking his head yes, so we're good to go.
All right. Any other questions?
And not sure if the council wants to hear from Mr. Marquez, who joined us this evening.
I mean, we probably should. He came all, he came here. We should at least have him.
He got all dressed up for you.
I know. I was like, you probably should.
Good evening, council members. Art Marquez, property owner of this project here. Appreciate the opportunity.
Could you remove your mask?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I wasn't even paying attention. Yes, you can.
Appreciate the opportunity to present this project to you. I do live in the property, and we've been looking for something to do with this property. We had some other, horse related activities there before. The city's just growing around us. That's not a feasible project anymore. So I think the timing's right. Amazon's going right next, about a mile away from us. So there's going to be a huge demand for housing, we think. And we're going to be right in the middle of the two developments as far as price point and demand that we've got going on. We're not going to be competing or anything like that. So we feel good about the project. I hope you guys like it too.
Appreciate it. And yeah, so it is very interesting how that one stretch is going to have a wide variety of price ranges for people to choose from. So I think that's an overall benefit. And I obviously had been privy to a lot more than the council had up to this point. I was been very excited to hear that it is going to be a range that we can get for everybody. So I may be looking, maybe not yours as much, but maybe yes. So, Councilmember Kerstetter.
One more question for Mr. Clark or Mr. Golka. The Ford Street that we're redoing, this is going to accommodate the extra traffic, right?
Yes, and so that's kind of why we've had 1 foot on the gas, 1 foot on the brake on the design of this section of 4th Street. Really trying to hone in on what the perfect entrance location would be, as well as the safest.
Okay.
So you're looking at making sure there's added potential right turn lanes, making sure that the middle turn lane is there in place now versus I hate when, no offense, engineers, and there's a lot of them in the room.
I got you back.
Whenever they go back and they start tearing up new asphalt or concrete, that just within 5 years, that just grinds my gears. It's just like really. And so we're making sure that we size 4th Street adequately to handle the additional, as you see on there, 95 lots. And so I also want to kind of reiterate that too to you all, with the waiver in front of you as well, and the one you just passed previously. This will add, in addition with the Iron Horse development and Prairie Lakes and everything to the north, just this month alone, 432 new residential subdivision lots announced in the month of April. Of course, with the TIF, that is the process of, we're going through that with establishing the public hearing. So that plat and those things haven't been passed yet. But if all those things go according to the concepts and everything presented to you all, that's what you're looking at. So pat yourselves on the back. This is a tremendous effort that all the city staff have done and working with Mr. Marquez, with Dill Hill Group, with Iron Horse Development, with all parties. Just so you know, that's an additional $121.4 million of potentially assessed valuation that you will see coming in the community in the next few years. So I just kind of wanted to preface that for you and let you know that.
And we need to make sure we keep the people that are sitting directly behind you in mind.
Yes, and that's the great part of having these three developments happening in the area all at once. So we can coordinate with PEC, we can coordinate with the county, with everybody on the stormwater. With all these moving parts and everyone moving dirt at the same time, it's a lot easier getting FEMA and Corps of Engineers approval and making sure all that water drains where we want it to. Not necessarily where it wants to, but where we want it to protect the current homes that are located there as well.
Perfect.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks. All right.
Motion to approve the request for waiver of subdivision regulations for Hidden Valley subdivision.
Second.
For motion and second, is there any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you both for coming. Appreciate it. Look forward to it. All right, item C. Waterline relocation along Sheridan Street.
I'm going to be honest. When I saw the agenda, I thought it was going to be a pretty light night for me. And it is not panning out like expected. So Builder's First Choice has taken over the Leakers building. They're looking to expand to the south. There's an existing water line that is currently a challenge to allow them to expand, that the city is taking the lead on relocation for. So there's an exhibit in your packet this evening. It's probably the best way to look at it. The teal dashed line just south of the Leakers running east-west is the existing line. We look to abandon that and then construct it further to the south, which is the darker blue line. Scroll down a little, please. Yep, to the new location. So there's the Unruh building there. We'll have to reconnect that service line. And then in addition to the construction of the water line, we'll also have an easement vacation where the existing water line is located, as well as new easement dedication to basically cover our right to operate and maintain the newly constructed water line. So all of that comes with survey, design, bidding, construction administration, all of the professional services associated with construction. That agreement is in your packet this evening for your consideration. I will mention one brief correction to the language on this. So we do have an existing survey to work off of associated with the Builder's First Choice development. So there's some cost savings there to be realized. And then also we've got the concept alignment pretty well nailed down at this point. So instead of the lump sum fee approach, we have changed that language to standard hourly. Mr. Clark is hoping that that comes in closer to 1,000. I think realistically will be closer to 5. But for your consideration this evening, we're asking for approval for 10,000, not to exceed.
Councilmember Kerstetter.
Explain why we're abandoning this 8-inch line again.
And I'm glad you asked. And Mr. Golka, I forgot to let him know. So this evening, we also, in addition to all the wonderful subdivisions and those types of things that we're talking about, we do also have Mr. Randy Jackson from Builder's First Source with us this evening to let you know what the plans are and kind of what we're looking for and why we're coming to you with the water line question here this evening. If that's okay with Mayor and Council, we'll have Mr. Randy Jackson come and let you know why exactly we are looking at changing the water line.
Councilmember Evans, you had a question. Do you want to wait? Okay. Oh, I hope you 3-hole punched it or she's not going to like you.
I was going to put together a PowerPoint presentation. The guys asked me at work, and I said, guys, we've made it through 2020, and we're all glassy-eyed from watching PowerPoints and Zoom meetings. So no, I'm just going to go old-fashioned and bring newspaper.
All right.
So I wanted to start and kind of back up a couple of things. First off, I am Randy Jackson. I'm the market manager for Builder's First Source covering the state of Kansas. Office out of our trust plant here in Valley Center. And I want to thank the Mayor and Council for giving me an opportunity to come in and address this. We're really excited about the opportunity to be expanding in the Valley Center area. The first thing I thought I'd do is let you know a little bit about who Builder's First Source is, because there's a lot of misconception. Very few people really know who we are. And so I thought I'd bring that up.
Builders First Source is a top 250, a Fortune 250 company with over 550 locations in 40 states. We currently have sales nationwide of a little over $13 billion. We are the #1 supplier of structural building materials in the United States. So we are a pro dealer. We sell construction materials to professional builders, remodelers. We are open to the public, and we handle that end as well. Like I said, we are a Fortune 250 company, meaning we're the largest 250 companies in the United States. And we also are really proud of the way we take care of our people. In 2020, we were recognized by the Wichita Business Journal as one of the best places to work in Wichita, Kansas. And that was voted on by our employees. So we're excited about that. Currently, the issue that we have and what is kind of creating the opportunity that we have is we have a lumber yard in South Wichita, and it is sitting on a 3-acre facility. It's an old Payless Cashways yard that was built in the late 70s, early 80s. And we've just flat outgrown it. We have just totally outgrown what we have for a facility. So we're looking for an opportunity to expand. Those that have been on the council for a while, or maybe are familiar, back in 2018, we came to the city council and asked for an opportunity to cross an easement because we purchased the 10 acres right next to the trust plant with, behind the Leakers property. That allowed us to go in and expand our trust plan, expand our capacity, and grow our sales with that. At the time, our goal is to take the second half of that 10 acres and expand our operations going down Sheridan Street. Sheridan Street is probably not going to happen the way it looks. And the cost of putting in Sheridan Street based on PEC was right at $1 million. So that wasn't an option. So what I looked at is we started looking at where we were at with where our property is, and then some challenges that we're facing Valley Center, facing ourselves, facing Dr. Unruh, and then an empty building that was sitting for 3 years in the Leakers property. The first page that I gave you on the front cover is the Outland title survey. When I got to looking at this about a year ago, Dr. Unruh has an office that has a pencil-shaped lot that is around the area that is outlined in the blue pipe now. There's about 1.5 acres behind Dr. Unruh's office. We own the property to the south of that, about 35 acres. Leakers owns it to the north, and we had no access to get to our 10 acres behind us for growth. And realistically, Dr. Unruh had no way to get to his property behind him either. There was also very little way with that easement going through with our current pipeline for Dr. Unruh to have any opportunity to expand and do anything with his property. So we looked at that and said, how can we make this work for all of us without putting in a $1 million road down Sheridan Street to get to our property at the back, which we had 6 acres for expansion. So we look at the next page that you have, you'll see that we're working with Dr. Unruh on a land swap. We're actually going to take the property off the back end of Dr. Unruh's property, and we're going to give Dr. Unruh part of the property from the Leakers building, which gives him additional frontage road. It gives us access all the way back through the property to our 10 acres and gives us the ability to develop that property. The other thing that it did, and Dr. Unruh was extremely happy about this, is it gave him the opportunity now to expand his operation. I spoke with Dr. Sid Unruh earlier today again, and he said, feel free to share this information tonight as well, that by doing this land swap and creating the additional tract, which would be tract 2, a 0.55 acre tract, Dr. Unruh has the ability to put in another 6,000 square foot office building, which he already has a tenant pretty well lined up for, bringing other services to the Valley Center area. In order to do that, though, that building is going to set right over the top of the existing water line.
Second half of that is for us to put in our buildings. We're gonna add 5 additional buildings to the back end for storing our lumber. We're gonna pave an additional 3.5 acres of property. Those actually go right underneath our existing buildings we're wanting to add to the facility as well. So that's why we're asking for the opportunity. The other thing that we did when we looked at that is by moving that easement to the south side of Dr. Unruh's property, we now have a water line with an extension capability to go to the west to service additional property that we have down there, but it also will serve the folks that are to the west of us toward the river. It gives you a water line also access through the property to the south. So we're looking really to the future. You know, how do we help this whole thing grow? And how do we help Valley Center get out of something that really was probably a flawed design from 2000? There were a couple other areas that were an issue. Like I said, we currently own the property right on the south of Dr. Unruh's office. We actually own the south 10 inches of his building because of where that building was set and the setbacks that were done. We actually own about 10 inches of his building if it was all actually set. So there was no way for us to actually utilize that property. We really needed to get that for Dr. Unruh's sake. We needed to get that cleaned up and get his property line moved. So we'll be also changing that plat to straighten that mess out where his property now has correct setbacks. So if we go to the third page that you have there, this is a new proposed site plan. This just is fresh, hot off the press from Cobb Valley Engineering today. We've been working with Brent, been working with Rodney Eggleston, the City of Valley Center, making sure that, once again, water is an issue, making sure that we've got the correct drainage to get everything back to the oversized pond that is behind. And it's not really a pond, it's a retention pit that's behind the Leaker's grocery store today. The area that you see that is in gray, that is our new paved area that will be our new lumber area where we'll have sheds. There will be 5 new buildings go into that. The one that is the 50 by 260 foot shed, that one goes right across the top of where that water line is. So we need to get the water line moved in order to complete that 50 by 260 foot building. So by using that 250 by 260 foot building with a solid back wall, we also will keep any lumber or anything from being actually seen from the Meridian Street. So keeps a nice clean appearance, upgrades the facility, and we'll take very good care of the front of the building. It also gives Dr. Unruh, like I said, the opportunity to expand his property, solves all of the other egress issues. We're also widening the egress that is along the old Sheridan Street, planned Sheridan Street, to give additional space in there for utilities for future growth. In our industry, that's what we're all about, is future growth. The next page that you see is kind of an aerial view. You had talked about that earlier, that, you know, I need to see pictures. This is an aerial view of what our planned expansion is. To give you a time frame, we just received approval on the permits for the inside of the building today from the city. We've actually been in doing some demolition work in there these last couple of weeks. We took ownership of the property about 2 weeks ago, and we've gone in and started doing some demo on the inside to get it safe. There were several issues from it setting for 3 years with water and electricity and some things that, you know, really shouldn't have ever been. But so we've been working on getting it safe and getting that going while we were waiting for the permits. Permits are approved, and we'll be getting permits from Valley Center this week. The plan for the rest of it, provided we get everything approved by the city and everything goes through as it's supposed to, is buildings should be going up the second week of August. And we hope to be operating our lumber yard on our new facility in the first quarter of 2022. Just FYI, or in case you were curious, the last page is nothing more than just a proposed, and actually what the plan is for the inside of the showroom facility. There was some press that came out on Facebook last week, and there was also some concern in the area with, okay, we have a lumber yard, what happens to our local hardware store? I just want to address that today. We're a pro dealer. We sell lumber, building materials, siding, windows, kitchen cabinets, everything to the professional builder. We're not a hardware store. If this works correctly, we can be the best partners in town. They have rental, they have hardware, they have paint, they have all the things we don't have. We have all the things that they don't have. So this is a great opportunity to partner in town. So just wanted to bring that up for the city and the city council. We're really excited about the opportunity. It gives us a lot of opportunity for growth. When all is said and done, our new lumberyard facility will be set on 8.5 acres compared to our 3-acre facility today. It also puts us 100 feet away from our truss plant, which we've been growing, and puts our entire campus at 25 acres. It would be one of the premier lumberyards in the Wichita market. This also leaves us about 4 acres in the back that's undeveloped at this point, and we've got future plans for that. What this brings to Valley Center? Well, our current facilities today, we're annualizing through this time of year. We should do about $35 million in total sales in the Wichita market this year. And we're bringing all of those to the Valley Center market. We also will be bringing all of our employees from our South Yard to Valley Center, which is an additional 30 employees to add to our existing 70 that we have at the truss plant today. The only way that this pays out for us to do this, the $4 million expansion, is for us to grow our sales. As we grow sales, we not only grow tax revenue for you, but we also gain employees, which bring more people to town. So, really kind of all I had. Any questions that you have for me?
Councilmember Davis, was your question, or Evans, was your question directed to this, or did we, is it?
I have 2 questions, actually.
Okay, since you lit up early, you can go first.
Thank you, Mayor. So you just mentioned about employees that you're bringing from your other facilities and so forth. Maybe I missed because I was writing down notes, but is there going to be employment opportunities for folks here in Valley Center?
Absolutely. We have, and it's something that we're working with on a day in and a day out basis. As we look at our current employee and staff, we have a very aging crew. A lot of our crew started in the building materials industries in the early 80s. And, over the next few years, we're going to be replacing a lot of folks. In addition to that, as sales continue to grow, we will continue to be hiring additional people. Currently in the Valley Center area, we already have a lot of employees from our location. Our general manager, Bruce Carver, lives just off of Meridian, this side of, his kids go to Valley Center School. I live in Valley Center. Our trust design manager lives in Valley Center, and his kids go to Valley Center School. So yes, we very much so support Valley Center.
Thank you for your presentation. This might be for Mr. Golka instead, though. Why are we as a city heading up the movement of this water line? This is something that it's more for the benefits of your facilities. So I'm not sure if I'm following that.
Yes, Councilman Evans, yes, we are working with Builders First Source for their entire development. And so we're working through all the issues when it comes to our water line, making sure that it's in the adequate easements, and making sure that it's located to our standards, making sure the fire hydrants and all those things. And so those are things that most times the developer and the city work in conjunction with. And we are choosing to utilize our own city engineer versus theirs in Cobb Valley with PEC, making sure that it's adequate for the city infrastructure purposes.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
I got the thumbs up.
Got the thumbs up.
I'm not sure which one, so I'll go with Councilmember Anderson.
I can go last.
Okay, Councilmember Kerstetter.
My questions are for, I forgot your name already. Randy. First one, how big of an area do you serve with your pro builders? It can't just be Sedgwick County. I'm assuming it's more than just Sedgwick County.
Sure. Yeah. With our trust department, with our trust plan, we currently serve the entire state of Kansas.
Okay.
We serve eastern Missouri. We're in Kansas City probably with 2 loads a day, 3 or 4 days a week.
Okay.
We serve all of western Kansas. We service, Garden City, Dodge City, Liberal.
Okay. So
right.
cool. Okay. Next question is I probably missed this in your presentation, but the picture new building floor plan that you have, is that the current leakers building or the one that you're going to build?
The one that I showed with the green print on it,
Yeah.
that is the current leakers building.
Okay, thank you.
And what we're basically doing is we're going back to the second set of posts. If you're familiar with the old grocery store, second set of posts is going to be a new demising wall. We're removing the demising wall that was in the back, and that all becomes warehouse space. And you'll notice on that print, it says future door shop. We're looking to add production for doors and additional stuff, and it's already planned. The front end, everything from the center doors to the right as you walk in the door is a design concept center. So we'll have cabinets, interior doors, roofing, siding, windows, etc. on one side, sales offices on the other, and then contractor product in the middle.
You got 2 subdivisions to advertise to now.
Absolutely. Yes, we're excited.
Councilmember Wilson.
I think this question, Randy, I guess I can propose this to you. So did I hear you correctly that you said that you do own the property south of this proposed new water line as well?
No.
No, okay,
No.
okay. For some reason, I thought I heard you say you had that property.
No, we own a 35-foot strip south of Dr. Unruh's property.
Okay, just
today.
a 35-foot strip,
Yeah,
okay.
that was considered supposedly an ingress opportunity for us, and it was set aside for a road to put Sheridan Street in. Unfortunately, where Dr. Unruh's office was put, that entire thing would have had to have been abandoned and moved another 40 foot to the south. And when we asked to put Sheridan Street in, none of the neighbors wanted to participate. It was going to cost us $1 million to put Sheridan Street in to get to our property to the back. At that point, honestly, we were looking at buying land elsewhere in Wichita for our new lumber yard and possibly move the truss plant as well. So getting Brent to work with us and work on doing this actually saved about 100 jobs in the city of Valley Center versus us moving our property elsewhere.
Mr. Golka, to this proposed water line movement, do you foresee in the future that this is going to have to be moved again at any point in time with the land that is around this, I guess specifically to the south of this?
No, sir. So with the east-west location, that is taking advantage of that 35-foot ingress egress right of way right now. So any future development to the south will utilize that as the primary street roadway to serve the development. So that was really where I think it was maybe 2016, 2017 when we were looking at roadway options was, a half a mile long, 40 foot wide industrial standard street to serve all this area back here. Very similar to the Clay Street project in 2013, 2014. And, unfortunately, concrete, the thicker it gets, the more expensive it is. It was a wide facility and it just wasn't, it was cost prohibitive to support the development. So anything that comes along in the future that would participate in that cost will make that a lot more viable. And this water line will be located in a similar fashion to a street right of way and very low risk outside of, Dr. Unruh coming here and saying he wants to expand to the south and we got to move everything anyway.
Sure.
Very low risk.
Okay. And do you know the age of the current pipeline that's there now?
2000-ish. So it's
20 years-ish.
Yeah.
What's the
PVC.
lifespan? What's the lifespan of that line? Do you know what it's made out, what material it is?
Yeah. So PVC has been around just long enough to where it's starting to fail, but it's not, predominantly failing like all of our cast iron ductile iron lines that, we most recently replaced. 50 years, best guess.
Okay.
Councilmember Anderson.
I just had a comment. I wanted to thank Randy for his presentation. And for those of you who have never met him before, he's been on our Economic Development Board for year and a half. I was going to say 2 years, but so I've gotten to know him, and I would just want to really thank you for believing in Valley Center, and hopefully being on that board helped you kind of see the opportunities that we have. And I know he's been instrumental in visioning things, and I think everything kind of works together. But I really appreciate serving on that board with you, and thank you for bringing more opportunities to Valley Center.
We're excited. As we looked at this, this actually is something that's been about a 3-year process for us to evaluate. And this is a total investment in what we're doing for Builders First Source in the Valley Center area of a little over $4 million between what we're doing to upgrade our infrastructure. We just repaved the parking lot at some additional parking lot at the truss plants. We're not pulling dirt or anything onto the streets. We're adding some additional equipment in the truss plant to increase our capacity and increase what we can do employee-wise. And this facility and some equipment, it's about $4.25 million that Builders First Source has invested in Wichita market, and it's all landing in Valley Center. So it's pretty exciting. Councilmember Colbert.
Yeah, Randy, first of all, I have to agree with Councilman Anderson. With you being on the committee, I sure appreciate that. Yeah, but I'm curious, how much is your truck traffic going to increase?
There will be additional trucking, which we were really excited, and a good part of what went ahead and made us decide that this was viable is, one, we have great access straight down Meridian to 235 to 96 and 235 loop. The other is the fact that we are widening, and they're putting in the new roundabouts at Broadway and our access to the headed to the east. So there will be additional truck traffic if we're going to move $35 million worth of material,
Yeah.
or $40 million worth of material up and down the roads. But what we saw when we looked at this, and like I said, it's been a 3-year process. When I took over this market 6-7 years ago, I looked at our facility and I said, we'd hit 15 million and then we're just going to blow up. And we're past that now. We've blown up. We started looking all over. The growth in the Wichita market is to the north. You know, as we're looking at, if you're familiar with the Parade of Homes, look where the Parade of Homes are. It's all to the north. So putting us up in the Northland is, you know, the right thing. As far as the truck traffic, yeah, we will have additional truck traffic. On the other hand, a lot of our truck traffic, if we're going to be servicing the Northland, is going to be coming through this part of the world anyway. And so it's
well, yeah, that's what's projected over the next 5 years, I think it is, in this area here. The other question I had, on your future planning here, you got one map has 3 buildings that you're putting up, correct?
Yeah, we are actually putting up 5 buildings total right now. And when we start building construction in August, second week of August, we'll be putting up 5 buildings. One of them will be an enclosed building that is 50 by 260 foot, 20-foot sidewalls, have 3 doors, all facing to the west. So basically there'll be no exposure of anything except the building anywhere toward Meridian. The next 3 buildings over are T-sheds that are 40 by 160. That's a T-shaped shed that is open for material to work. And then there's a 5th building, which is 30 by 270 feet, which is on the backside, backed up to the retention pit.
Okay, is your road traffic coming into the yard, going to the back portion of your yard? Are you going to increase that in any way, or?
We actually, and part of that with being a pro dealer versus we're not like a Home Depot or a Menards, you know, a retail. Our traffic is primarily pro customer, and most of our materials are delivered with our trucks and brought in on semis. As you'll notice, if you look at that sheet number 4, the colored map, and you look at the parking lot, we actually have a plan. It's kind of hard to see because of the color on this, but in the they will loop around behind the current grocery store, our new retail facility, and then loop into the yard. When they leave, they'll be going out on the south drive, so it gets them one way in, one way out. and It restricts that traffic.
That's
And
what, that's what
makes-
I was gonna get at. Is,
Makes a
are you
nice
gonna have
loop.
double lane going in and out or just a
Right.
U-type deal?
Right. Our plan is to keep them coming in one direction and only going out. In fact, the south drive that you see in the current proposal on the other side of the little pill-shaped piece of grass, we're keeping the pill-shaped piece of grass, and the road to the south of there is going to be a one-way lane only for an exit out of our facility. So,
Great. I appreciate it. Thanks.
you bet.
If I could make one quick comment on when it comes to entrances and so as you see the north entrance, what are we going to be doing here in the next couple of years? Thanks to Lampo and that project, we're redoing all of Meridian from the train tracks south to our city limits. So I've already been in conversation with BEC, and so currently we're designing Meridian. We're gonna make sure to move that location to the north, so it's lined up with Ford Street. So it's a lot easier for those semis and the truck traffic if they're coming from the east to the west, so they can just drive straight into the plant, not having that turning radius that just tears up. Councilman Colbert, I'm sure you are well aware that just tears up asphalt when those trucks are turning left and right. Also, too, in this location, from basically kind of the 4th Street to the north, we are proposing a concrete versus asphalt in this section when we redo Meridian Street to make sure to account for that truck traffic and the turning radius all where as well.
In fact, if you look at that third page, which is, and this is one that Brent hasn't had a chance to look at unless he caught his email about 4 o'clock, because that's when I got it. That's the latest survey from Caw Valley. That's the new plat plan. You'll see on that north entrance where they are already putting in the proposal for a 30-foot wide drive that lines up with 77th Street. Well, I just want to have a comment, make a comment. I am beyond ecstatic. First of all, when I first found out about this, I honestly didn't think ProSource was more than what I've seen all my years living here. Okay, it was that. When I'd heard this, I actually did go and look up the webpage and was shocked. I was like, okay, I guess I'm not a pro, which is probably why I really didn't realize all this. But I think it's going to be great, and you know, I'm looking to do some remodeling, so at least I may not have to go very far now to find what I'm looking for. So, yeah. Like I said, I'm ecstatic. Councilmember Kirsten.
I just want to do the motion. Motion to approve the scope of services for Waterline relocation project for a cost not to exceed $10,000 and authorize mayor to sign.
Second.
We have a motion.
1,000.
Oh.
So your goal is 1,000.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. Thank you very much. And thanks for hanging around.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. I'm not sure why this one's on there. It sure doesn't fit into the topic of tonight's meeting, but item D, discussion of current fireworks ordinance and possible changes. Who's doing this? Surely not me. He's having
While we're working out
he's
the,
having technical difficulties.
the technical difficulties. Good evening, Mayor Council again. Before you here is proposing, looks like it is possible changes to Ordinance 1338-20 regarding the fireworks. It was brought to our attention actually from Public Safety that we kind of just need to add a word in there that says selling. So it makes sure that to define the times that there's actually the operations are able to sell fireworks. We just had discharge. And so we needed to add that word of sales and as well as selling. We put this on as a discussion item because we did want to allow you the opportunity to discuss. Of course, this year is one of those odd years that the 4th does fall on a Sunday. And so July 5th will be Monday. And so the current ordinance reads that basically the operating hours and the discharge of fireworks will be the same on the 5th as they currently are on the 4th.
Well,
So we just know that you had.
I wasn't, I was sorry. I was just like, yeah, you're right. That's what I thought. That's all I was looking
And
for.
so we just want to give you the opportunity before we bring you an amended ordinance, a chance to discuss and making sure that whatever amendment we bring before you, that we just have to bring it to you once instead of multiple times and going back and forth. So that's why it's underneath the agenda as a discussion. And again, want to appreciate and thank you all for joining us at 6 p.m. I know it's getting long and there's a lot of exciting things happening and fireworks. We'll probably light off a bunch of fireworks when all this development's done.
Or starting.
Yeah.
So any discussion, council? Is there any other potential changes besides the wording? I currently wouldn't expect any, but
I'd like to read it before we.
all righty. That's fine. It's just for discussion. Great. Moving on. Item E, first quarter review.
I hope you're quick.
Oh, I wasn't sure which one of you were doing. You both got up.
Oh, he's coming up. I just
Okay.
want to say, just to add to all the excitement tonight, is our first quarter financials.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Matt Kane, your City Treasurer. Just my pleasure tonight to present your first quarter financial review. First quarter in general, kind of the least exciting quarter as far as financials go, because there's not a whole lot of story to tell just yet. But on that page right there, general fund revenue summary is about the only outstanding thing that I wanted to point out to you, which is the other revenues section, which I said it at the end of last year, and I get to repeat myself again. It's CARES funding. We got reimbursed. Our final disbursement of CARES funding came in January of 2021. So that's why that looks so out of whack. And then the other thing to keep in mind is that expenditures in pretty much every department have department and fund have transfers that have not been done. So expenditures are going to look low, a little, artificially low because we haven't done all of that internal moving yet. But do you have any questions?
Council? Financial peoples that like to ask questions? All right. Then I guess let's see.
Off the hook?
You,
Thank
you
you.
should have never said that. Do we need a receive and file motion?
Yeah, wait till second quarter.
Yeah. I'm trying to get to the end of this.
Motion to file and accept.
Second. There we go. Got a motion and a second to receive and file. Any other discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you again.
Item F. We're still going?
We're gonna finish.
Real quick, now almost the most exciting item is the replacement of our City Hall server.
Yes.
We did receive a quote from Gilmore Solutions. It was roughly about $17,000 to get this server replaced, up and running, and included some additional, a couple extra hours for labeling all of the network ports within City Hall to get everything back on track to the way it needs to be. It just replaces our server that is now 7 years old. It's running Windows Server 2012 software. We need to get everything updated. And, it has a lot of security updates as well. I'll stand for any questions.
Councilmember Anderson.
What's the life expectancy of this server?
It'll be about another 5 to 7 years.
I was going to say, it's not going to be more than 5 years.
I just didn't know. I know that technology.
The standard warranty is 5 years, but there's always an option for 1 or 2 extended warranties.
Great, thank you.
All right, being the techie guy, are we sure the spec's enough? I'm looking at this and I'm wondering, what are we all going to run on this?
Well, since we approved encode moving to the cloud, we'll just now connect to that remotely. So it's only going to handle our local stuff here at City Hall, our share drives.
So it's more going to be like a file and print server, not more of a domain total.
There'll be a domain on it and a couple of virtual machines, but nothing crazy.
Couple virtual machines with only That much memory?
Yeah, we'll take an encode off of there is a huge help on that end.
Okay, yeah, I guess it would be all right then. Okay, so encode was the big.
That'll just become a remote desktop connection.
All right, it's not a bad price. I was just concerned about it might being undersized, but I guess the nice thing about those is they can always be upgraded. So.
Yep.
So yes, so that price is including them doing all that labeling and everything as well?
Yeah.
Oh, this is a
Everything.
great deal, guys.
Price is the one 7 years ago. So
Yeah, yeah.
not bad.
All right.
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of server from Gilmore Solutions in the amount of $17,308.81.
Second. Got a motion in a few seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. All righty.
All right, so item G is, oh, sorry, go ahead. I don't know if you want
I didn't get to item G yet.
No,
I have to call it.
I jumped in, I'm too excited.
Item G, Resolution 69821, Waterline Authorization. Okay, now you can go.
I'll follow Mr. Clark so you can go. Good evening, Mayor and Council, once again. So this evening, we bring to you a resolution
He's rubbing off on his staff now.
authorizing the Waterline project approval. As you know, last meeting, we approved the design, all of that for the water line that will be added on the Ford Street. In order to finance that with long-term financing and bond money, we have to approve it as a project first. Once it's approved, it will move to the next item to secure the funding for that.
Council?
Make a motion to adopt the resolution 698-21, authorizing improvements to the city's public water supply system, providing for the payment of the project.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. Item H, Resolution 69921, substitute approval for GO bonds.
All right, so good evening once again. This resolution shows that when we bonded for the wastewater treatment plant, the phase 3 upgrades, we ended up having such a good bid on those construction costs that we ended up with a extra $455,000 roughly after that total project. So this resolution reallocates that funding from that bond to pay for this water line that we approved at our last meeting. So we'll have no additional cost of issuance, no additional printing, no additional state fees and all that. The water fund already subsidizes the sewer fund for that payment. So they'll just go ahead and take over that payment for the remainder of the bond. There's no additional cost anywhere currently.
Council?
Make a motion to adopt resolution 699-21, providing for the substitute improvements to be financed with proceeds of the City of Valley Center, Kansas General Obligation Fund Series 2019-1.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Item 13, consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve consent agenda. All in favor, raise your hands. Motion carries. Staff reports. Anything to relay from our new baby daddy? Did he relay anything to you that he needs? You don't have to stand up. A simple yes or no nod if it's a no. I don't need to come up again. No. Okay, great. Mr. Owens. Chief Newman. Mr. Eggleston. Mr. Golka. All righty. Mr. Arbuckle. All right. Mr. Smith. Oh, man.
Sorry, one thing. It's good though. Good evening for the last time. The League of Kansas Municipalities have been releasing some guidance on the American Rescue Plan. We did find out that the state of Kansas is receiving their allocation from that plan around May 10th. So 30 days after that, we should get our first tranche, as they call it, the first half of Valley Center's portion. Our portion should total just over $1 million. So we'll get half that this year, half that next year, which then we can apply for various things, but most importantly, water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure.
Cool. Thank you. Do I dare? All right, Mr. Clark.
Get it over with.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't going to say anything, but now I feel challenged.
Moving on to
No, I just want to thank you all again for your time this evening. I did want to remind you that this Saturday, Leaker's Pharmacy is going to have another COVID vaccine clinic. So if you do get any questions from your constituents, it is a walk-in clinic as well as scheduled. So if folks do feel more comfortable with scheduling a certain time slot, they can contact either pharmacy in Park City or Valley Center. And that will be happening from 9 to 4 again at the Valley Center Community Center. And information's on our website and Facebook as well. Thank you again.
beautiful governing body reports. I just want to say I am thoroughly happily. I don't even have the words of everything that's going to happen in this town in the next little while. One of the, I guess, the bad sides of being a mayor is I am privy to a lot of this before I can let anybody else. And it's been really tough keeping my mouth shut. Trust me. That's how excited I am about this. But other than that, we'll move on to Councilmember Stam.
I have nothing.
Councilmember Evans.
I have nothing.
Councilmember Davis.
Nothing.
Councilmember Anderson.
Two things, I'll be quick. We opened the senior center lunches back up last Tuesday. We had about 15 people come in the first day. We still served just shy of 50 through the drive-through, which we're going to continue until we don't have the need for it. I'd look to make that a permanent thing. We had a very good plan in place. We didn't have any pushback from any of the seniors as far as the distancing and spacing. They wore masks until they were seated. We brought them meals. People were just happy to get some semblance of normalcy back. I was fully vaccinated when we started that, and so I gave out quite a few hugs to people that came in that have been missing that. So I want to thank everybody that stuck with everything, all the staff that helped with everything in the last year of everything we've gone through. That's just one facet that we serve in the community, and they were very appreciative of still having those meals over the last year, and we will continue those. Also, we had a lot of pushback and a lot of people that were really disappointed when Leakers left Valley Center, and rightly so. But that was a business decision that they made, and people were really pushing back that the city needed to do something to get a grocery store back in town. Without fully subsidizing a business, which I'm not in favor of, I think what's happening in town is going to bring something back when it's needed. The amount of housing that's going in, the amount of business that's going in, at some point, there will be another grocery store in town. And it may not be the same model that we had, but I think we're going about it the right way with economic growth. So everyone that's upset with that, hold on, because eventually it will come back. So that's all I had.
Councilmember Gregory.
Just a reminder that the Sedgwick County Association of Cities will be meeting Thursday night at 6 o'clock. It will be a Zoom meeting. That's the 22nd. And our program will be a presentation from Brent Shelton, the Deputy Chief Financial Officer, regarding the American Rescue Plan that you were just talking about.
Councilmember Kerstetter.
I don't have anything.
Councilmember Wilson.
Wow, how can I go after that? No, I'm good.
And Councilmember Colbert.
Well, I got two things for you. One is the flyer that you got on your dais here, the save the date. You got a sneak preview of what's going to be in the water bill. But take and keep that if you can. And if people are inquiring, make sure that we know about it so we can get some more passed out. The other thing is, WAMPO sent a email to me with the brand new Kansas Department of Transportation long-range transportation plan, 2020 to 2045. If you guys are interested in hearing about it, let me know and I'll get somebody from Wampo to come out and talk about it. And it's going to affect the 69th Street. It's going to affect I-35. Well, yeah, I-30, 135, 96, 254 in the next 3 years. So if no other business, then I make a motion the meeting be adjourned.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Right at 9.